back at the salon together with my girls.
Hey.
For another round of Honey Talks. And today we really need to talk travel. If you know House of Notoire for some time already, then you know travel is our thing.
We international.
Especially for these two over here. And you know what? With this gloomy weather,
we gotta transport ourselves outward.
yes.
Get me out of here.
Yes, so
Get
it was
me
time.
Out of here. Every episode there will be a song. Get
You
me
know.
out of here. Who was that? Tayo Cruz?
I don't know, but what I do know is that we need to share our experiences and memories about traveling because this winter,
Wild.
Well, this
Yeah.
year it's definitely a memory.
Yeah,
Travel
this
is a
is
memory.
a
Yes.
trip down memory lane.
but first things first, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling good. I am feeling inspired to
Okay.
go back memory lane when in 1995 I could travel. Because it's been a long time.
It
been a long
is.
time.
And you, Lils, you
Yeah.
having a good day? You feeling good?
I'm happy to be here with you girls. And yeah, I miss traveling too. Take me back.
Yeah, well, you know.
What can we do about it?
Yeah, yes. Well, I'm wondering, like, yeah, what is it? What changed? Like, obviously, we can't go anywhere now.
I was gonna
But,
say.
like, did you do anything? Did you go anywhere? Or
did.
is it. You went away this year, right?
I went
She
away
did.
this summer for 2 weeks. We had a little family rendezvous in Switzerland and France and a little bit of Germany. So I saw my family. That was nice. We did go by plane. I was super nervous to travel by plane for the first time since this whole, I don't even want to say the word because it doesn't deserve any airtime anymore, but it's called a pandemic that we are in. But it was nice to go out, but it was nerve-wracking. But I, at the same time, was also so surprised by how smoothly we could still travel in a sense at the same time as well. So, yeah, I did go. But that
Yeah.
was the only thing I did abroad this year.
And you?
Girl, I have hardly left Amsterdam. I went to Rotterdam on Ketty.
That is
And
so
I-
far away.
Yes.
From living in Amsterdam, moving out of, like, the city center, or, like... It's a trip.
Anything
It's a
feels
trip.
like a trek out of the
Y'all
city
city
center.
girls need to stop, okay?
Listen, I want to, but I'm scared, and I'm trying to be so safe. I feel like I've been the biggest dork all year, but dorks are cool this year because you gotta play it smart.
Okay.
And I've been playing it smart, and I'm bored as hell, but I'm making
Well,
it
then
work,
you're
and
not
I-
that smart. If you're bored, you're doing something wrong.
But Rotterdam
I'm
is a
bored,
nice
but I
place to
miss
go
travel.
It is. I went to Zealand over summer with
nice.
a whole group of friends and our kids for like 3 days. It was amazing.
To. For our listeners, that's Zealand in
Zealand
the Netherlands,
in
not
the
New
Netherlands.
Zealand.
It's the
No,
old
I
Zealand,
wish.
the OG
Yeah.
Zealand, right? The
Before we
original?
go into the topic of the week, we did a poll on House of Notoire.
We sure did.
Yeah, and I'm really curious what everyone said about traveling.
Well,
and
we-
you have the statistics.
I do indeed have the statistics right here in front of me, ladies and gentlemen. We had some audience questions, and we basically asked them, and I think we'll touch upon some of the other questions later in the episode as well. But we first started off with, did our audience even travel this year? What is your guess? Do you think our audience was safe, was mindful, or
hope
do
they
you
were
think
safe.
they were a little bit reckless?
I think that our audience is not reckless, but is in for an adventure. So my guess is that people went traveling.
Okay. And
Yeah,
your guess?
based on you know my own personal statistics and research of friends.
Okay,
I think
doctor.
it's I think it's gonna be close. Like, yeah,
I think
don't
it's
know.
50-50.
I think it's close. I
Okay,
think
what
it's
is
gonna
it?
Be split.
The answer is 46%. So that's already high.
Yeah.
Did go abroad, and
See?
54 stayed right here at home or wherever home was for
Yeah,
them.
I'm in that 54%.
But I was surprised that it was a 50-50 situation.
No, I'm
But
not.
I think it's a very tender topic. Like, y'all know I've gone back and forth so many times. Like, I miss my mom so much and I'm really worried about her. I mean, shit is crazy this year. So, you know,
Yeah.
and I've played with the idea back and forth in my mind and weighed the benefits and consequences. And I just chose not to go because I don't want to bring something. I mean,
You know why I'm not surprised? During summer, Europe was kind of calm. We had this whole, like, there was still some viruses spreading around, but it wasn't, like, Europe wasn't in a lockdown during summertime.
No, that was
So I think a
crazy.
lot of people were like, you know what? Now's my chance.
go.
This is a safe place to go. It's not a red area.
Yeah.
So let me just take this trip
And
because
especially when
the
Italy
world is
picked
ending.
back up, everyone was going to Italy as well when they were thriving.
Yeah, but I heard from a lot. I thought about it too because I had a trip to the Amalfi Coast planned for my birthday, which is early April, and obviously y'all know what I was doing in early April, sitting up in that house, singing "Happy Birthday" with Stevie
I was
Wonder to
thinking that.
myself.
So many songs.
There was no
Okay, and
Amalfi
what-
Coast.
What's next? What do we have?
Another thing that I was quite surprised about was the amount of people that actually moved countries during this pandemic.
Moved. Like a literal
Yeah.
move, like
So, for
moving your
example,
life.
moving
I get
your
that
life.
though. I get that.
I know a girl that, and bless her heart, I won't call her out, but I mean, she moved right before lockdowns happened worldwide, but I mean, for Europe, I guess, but she moved from the States to Barcelona on a spontaneous trip. She saw a cheap ticket and she went thinking she would go for just like maybe 2 weeks, and then lockdown happened, so she had to stay. So she stayed during lockdown, and then she loved Barcelona, and now she's still living there, and she has no
but I love
plans.
that.
Fair enough,
She
though.
has no plans to go back to the States.
I'm telling
here
you,
for
this whole pandemic is a mess.
Yeah.
But it's giving opportunities as well.
It definitely
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It depends on
Opening
how
new
creative
doors.
you are.
Yeah, but looking into the future, we also asked them, like, will you travel right away when, it's all possible again, or will you wait to see how things pan out with the vaccine?
Yeah.
And we, again, had quite a close call. About 59% said, honey, I am ready to go. Get me out of here. And 41 said, nah, honey, I'm going to wait it out. How do you guys feel? Raise your hands for if you're going to wait it out. Lily,
I'm waiting it out because I
Yeah,
have
but you're the
so
whole-
freaking far to go, y'all. I have to take 2, if not 3 planes. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I maybe would have felt comfortable, going to Italy or going somewhere closer in Europe
Yeah.
or doing a road trip. I thought maybe drive to France or something. But I realized, like, for me, the only person besides y'all ladies that I really give a damn about seeing is my mom.
Yeah.
And she's all the way back in Florida. And for me to get there, it's like...
It's a trek.
Yeah.
there's no direct flights anymore
But like
to Orlando.
you,
So I
you
have
are
to really
in
go.
for planning a trip, right?
I want to go, but I think I'm going to go. Then, I mean,
Not back home maybe, but somewhere else.
I mean, now it's winter, so I think I'm just going to lay low. We'll see. I'm starting to unravel a little bit, no lie. I'm getting like the wanderlust,
Yeah.
but my mom and I had a long chat because we keep going back and forth. Like, what should we do? Should I try to come back over there and, travel really safely? And once I put all the time into it, I was like, I'm going to have to be gone for like a month, 6 weeks. If you do it right, if you do it safely. So we just decided, let's wait. And then, the last couple months in America has been a shit show.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of like, let me just let America settle down a sec.
And
Maybe
then
we
you'll
get some
go.
new people in charge. We will. Praise the Lord. And maybe they will believe in science and it will be safer for me to go back because, also that's where I grew up. So, of course, the
But
priority is to
sometimes
see
you
my
just
mom.
want to go back
but
home. I have to that's normal.
It's just like a 23-hour journey
Right.
to get there.
But it's
and then
worth
the quarantine
it.
and
It's
everything.
worth
It
it.
will
It's
be
worth
when I
it.
go.
So, in all the time that I've been in Amsterdam, something that's made my experience so special is the fact that my mom is a flight attendant and she was able to come over quite often, sometimes even once a week for her trips. And it was such a special experience because she really got to be a part of my life over here. She got to know my friends, my colleagues, eat at my favorite restaurants, drink cocktails together. We were able to celebrate special moments like birthdays and holidays together as well. So in the last just over a decade, it never really felt so far from home. My mom always brought that homey feeling over. So once 2020 hit and everything froze, the whole world kind of shut down, one of the biggest challenges, on top of all the mental and emotional challenges we're all going through, one of the hardest parts for me was that disconnection from my mom. I mean, emotionally we're still quite connected, but physically not being able to see her, not being able to hug her, I mean, that was another level of challenge. And my heart really goes out to anyone else who struggled during this crazy year and had to find a way to overcome these challenges without their family, because, you know, it made us all stronger, and it was definitely, now I see it as a part of my journey, but I definitely think that there were times I really doubted myself, like, why did I leave so far away? Why did I uproot my life to go build something somewhere else? But I gotta say, on top of that special experience of having my mom come over, another part that made it so important was that my mom always encouraged me. You know, she raised me to be curious, to be adventurous, to want to explore different places. And every time I started to doubt myself, and there were plenty in 2020, my mom always encouraged me to keep going, just figure it out. You've gotten this far, don't give up. And I'm really, really grateful for that.
So for this episode, we're diving into our travel experiences. But you know what? Let us start with our life, because the three of us, we lived in different places. We traveled around the world. So let's start at the beginning.
Where it all began.
Yes, where did it begin for you? The travel lust, the wanderlust.
It began on a sultry night in Sri Lanka. My parents were having a good old time. And they said, let us make this child.
Oh, we're really taking it back.
Bless this planet with this child. And it was made in Sri Lanka. I'm not Sri Lankan, but I was produced there.
Yeah.
And no, my parents were living in Asia already before I was born, already for about, I think, 6 to 8 years before I even arrived. And they lived in Pakistan. And when my mother was pregnant, she, for the last few months of the pregnancy, moved back to the Netherlands. So they gave birth. And I was late. I was due on the first day of Christmas. I arrived January 10th, y'all. I was late. I was fat. I was big, just like my personality. I was like, y'all better wait if you want something good.
Yeah.
I need to cook a little bit longer.
Worth the wait. Worth the
And
wait.
it worked. It was worth the
They added
wait.
a little seasoning. Jingle bells came in between, and a Happy New Year. So instead of 88, I arrived in 89. And my dad was already late for work because they expected to maybe go back the first week of January. And I mean, we went 2 weeks later because my very first flight, besides being in the belly, was only 10 days after my birth. So that was January 20th, 1988. Was my very first flight.
And where did you go?
To Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
To Pakistan, because my parents were still living there. So we flew to Karachi, and I lived in Faisalabad for a little bit, for a few months, and most of my time in Pakistan, in Karachi, which was 6 years. And I also lived in Indonesia for 4 years together with my parents. And in between, we also lived in Singapore and Sri Lanka for a bit, but those were just brief moments. Then we came back to the Netherlands early 2000s, and in 2012, from the top of my head, until 2014, 15, I went back to Indonesia as a young adult, and I studied there. I did a school exchange, and I went back again to work in Indonesia.
So you grew up traveling, so it's no wonder that you have this love for holidays and trips and moving around.
Yeah,
right?
you need to keep me moving. It's nice to also have a home base, and sometimes you want to feel more settled, but I just thrive off of moving.
Yeah,
I like to keep
me
it
too.
moving in life anyway, and right now I'm literally itching to go somewhere because being here for all these months is foreign to me just as a vacation, but I also actually am considering moving abroad again because I've been living in the Netherlands for, I guess, 6 years now, 5 to 6 years now, and I'm like, time's up. We need to choose a different country to live in. So I have a few places.
You're
in
seeking
mind.
adventure.
I love adventure.
Yeah, I get
it's my
that.
middle
Yeah,
name.
because you
And
were
how-
thinking of doing that this year.
I was
before
thinking of doing
everything
that this
happened.
year. I am considering spending my time in Lisbon and London. I used to hate London, like literally hate London. And last year I fell in love with London. So I want to spend some time there. And I also want to spend some time in Ivory Coast, where my mother is from, and connect more with my family. But maybe next year, we'll see. But if someone tells me, yo, Cynthia, you want to move to, I don't know, Hawaii or whatever,
You will go.
best believe I will say yes.
Yes.
Give me a hula and I will hoop myself out of here. Trust.
Okay.
Period.
So maybe, you know, I hope someone in Hawaii hears this, because I want to see this.
Welcome me.
Yes. And how about you, Leos? Because you're not an Amsterdam native.
No, I'm not. You
How
know,
long do you live in Amsterdam now?
I'm here for, oh my God, 11 years now.
That's a long time.
2009 November, I moved here. And now
Imagine,
it's already
my oldest
2020.
son, he's 10, turning 11. And if I think about how much happened in these 10 years,
Yeah. I
it's
grew
crazy.
up in I feel like I grew up in Amsterdam because I moved here in my early 20s. I was 23. And so, you know, I knew about the world and I had traveled a lot, but like really jumping into this crazy adventure, which I thought was going to be like a year, maybe 2, do a little study, and then, I don't know, see what's next. And then I just kind of like stayed. There was like another level. But if I take it all the way back to my conception story, since Cynthia's
Please do share as well. Don't leave me hanging.
well, I believe I was conceived in the ocean.
Oh no.
That's-
Ooh.
Not trying to put Nancy on blast,
So
but
that's where
I
your
just have
love
a
for
feeling.
skinny dipping comes from. It
Now
all
we
makes sense.
know. Now we
It all
know.
makes sense. This
You know,
girl likes the skinny dip.
I come from a long generation of skinny dipping women, and we're very proud of that lifestyle.
But you were conceived in the sea.
Listen,
That's
we
like you're a
need to get
mermaid.
Nancy on this show,
You
but I
consider
am
yourself
a
a
mermaid.
little mermaid as
I
well.
am
but
a
she
little,
is.
because my mom
This
always
is the
called me that.
evidence.
Yeah.
It's true. So, my biological father lives in the Cayman Islands, and he and my mom met there.
Yeah.
And then I was born in Chicago, and then I was raised for a while in Florida, and now I ended up over here. But in between all of those many years, my mom is a flight attendant. So
Yeah, that too.
that's really where I get it from.
But where were
because
you born?
I was born in Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chi-town.
Yeah, and then moved to Orlando and then Amsterdam. But yeah, I think by the time I had graduated from high school, so like around age 18, I think I'd already been to like 40 countries because my mom, as a flight attendant, like that's her thing. Every time we had a long weekend or spring break, any kind of break from school, she's like, all right, we're going to Peru. Okay, we're going to Italy. We're doing a road trip in South Africa. We're going to Hawaii.
Yay.
So I think for me growing up, it was so normal. Like my mom and my grandma and I just all traveled together, and that's so amazing. I look back as an adult now and I'm like, damn girl, you were living the life. And I didn't even know. It was
Yeah.
so normal to me to be traveling and to be in a place that was foreign to me, languages I don't know, new food. Like every time we had a break from school, we were going somewhere. And of course that's because like it was free to fly.
But that's amazing
So,
because
yeah, really.
experiencing all those different places over the world, different people, different cultures, that like
Yeah.
forms you into a whole human being.
100%.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I think it definitely, I know we're going to get into this more later, but I think just growing up like mixed race and a multicultural person, having that opportunity that we could go visit my biological family, that I could go kind of connect with my roots, like you said, with Côte d'Ivoire, that's really special. And I understand that's such a privilege because thank you, Delta, for all those years of free flights. I mean, I flew free till I was 25, 26.
I hope they give us free
So-
flights now that we dropped Delta. Can
This
you say
was a
Delta one
good
more
shout
time?
out.
I'm going to say KLM, Virgin, Atlantic,
Sponsor
whatever, sponsor me. I'm going to drop all them airline names.
Yeah.
Give me them flights.
But it's
Go
funny
for it.
because it's so true. Like, that's the only life I knew. I got my first passport when I was also a few months old. And I remember the story is I don't remember, but the story was something like, I think I was about 6 or 8 months old, and we went to France, my mom, my grandma, and I, the travel trio. And they had like a debate that I didn't have any shoes yet. So my mom was like, okay, fine, we'll get you some shoes in France. Like, that was the story.
Wait, and you were how old?
Like 6, 8 months old. Like, I wasn't really
Oh,
walking,
you were
but
I was like, you were 6 and you weren't.
No.
You didn't have
You want to
shoes. shoes, but like, what happened?
I had
lived barefoot for the first
Little
10 years of
hippie
her life.
mermaid.
Well, that is, I really was barefoot most of my childhood, but I did get some shoes apparently. So, yeah, I think that was like my first trip abroad when I was a little itty bitty.
And your first shoes. This is a great story.
Yeah.
But how did you end up in Amsterdam?
I was like, get me the hell out of America.
Was it like the typical story we see in American movies? Like, oh my God, Amsterdam, and it's this whole fantasy world. And you're like, you know what? Let's go there and let's
really a
smoke
fantasy
joints.
for
And
a lot of people, yeah.
Yes and no. So when I was, I mean, I had traveled in Europe, of course, done a lot of road trips with my mom and my granny. And I just really wanted to live in Europe. Like, I just never really felt American. I mean, half of me isn't American. So I think having all these different cultural exposures made me very critical of American culture. And like, I saw things through a very different lens, even from my peers. And I just remember being like 17, 18. I was obsessed with that movie, Amelie. And I was like, I want to live in Europe. And I kind of thought, Amsterdam's really cool. And my grandmother is Dutch. Like,
I was going to say you're part Dutch as
yeah,
well, right?
so on my mom's side. So I was like, let's give that a try. And they're like, at the time I thought, well, everyone speaks really great English here versus like no shade to Paris. But I was like, that's going to be a lot harder for me.
but
Do not talk about my French people that, okay?
I said no shade.
But
I'm just saying,
no shit. But I can imagine
I
that
thought I'm coming here for a year.
Yeah.
language is so easy because when I was my mom is from Suriname.
Yeah.
And I like my parents brought me there when I got born, like immediately. I was always there. I said my first words. I started walking there. Like they went back and forth. Probably not. No. I was just walking around. But when I got older, going back there, because when I was 21-ish, I went back supposedly for 6 months, but I stayed for 4 to 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that turned out different. But it was amazing. But the fact that I could speak the language.
Yeah.
That's
Like
such a
also
huge
I'm from there,
positive,
so I understand the Surinamese language, Sanantongo, but I can speak Dutch.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a change. So I can imagine for you coming from America to a whole new place, because I went back home. It was already familiar.
Yeah.
But for you, you went to a real new situation.
And I came by myself. I didn't have aunts and uncles to lean on. I was
Yeah.
just like, get me out of Florida. I have my bachelor's. I'm an adult.
Yeah. And then you came here.
Let
you
me just go. And
you
I
could
thought, I'll come for a year.
communicate.
Yeah,
That's
and,
perfect.
And I just thought, it's a cool place to be. I don't want to put myself on blast, but I didn't even really like party or smoke or anything when I first moved here.
What a change in comparison to now.
What can I say?
I mean,
Amsterdam has changed me.
you have evolved.
You're a changed
Listen,
woman.
I said I grew up in Amsterdam. I said I grew up here, okay? Y'all need to believe me.
Embrace
but
it.
it
Full
wasn't, I
Amsterdam
didn't come here
experience.
for that. I came here, I was like such a little nerd. I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 400 museums in this whole country. Like, this is crazy.
I need to explore them all right away.
I love
Right
art.
away.
I want to ride my bike everywhere. That's really what I thought.
Yeah,
I
but
was
you
like,
still do that. You
yeah,
ride
I
your
know,
bike
and I love
everywhere.
it. And I still pinch myself when I'm like wobbling along on my bike on the canals. I'm
That's
like,
cute.
Bless your
this
heart.
is my real
Yeah.
life. I live in a little snow globe, and look at the friends I
And
made.
this
I
is your
remember.
actual life.
This is my
now.
Yeah.
real life
You're
now.
not a tourist anymore.
No, not
I
for a while.
remember-
That's crazy.
When I was living in Suriname, I went back to Holland every like 6 months or a year. But I wasn't homesick, but I did miss like the city life.
Yeah.
So whenever I got back and I was sitting in the tram or the bus or whatever, I could enjoy the little things so much. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, look at this canal. Oh, look at this architecture. And
It
just
is
grabbing a
different.
coffee to go, like the little things.
Yeah.
So when I moved back to the Netherlands, I made a promise to myself, like, okay, whenever you're back, you will get back into the Dutch city movement that is really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to keep this slow pace and enjoy what you've missed. But that helped me so much to, count your blessings.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
But what did you lived abroad
Yeah.
many times?
Yeah.
What did it give you?
Whew. It gave me so much. Like, what are you looking for exactly?
What are you asking?
What are you asking me exactly?
No, but yeah, did it change you? Okay, let's put it this way. The pros and the cons of moving to another country.
Well, in my younger years, because like I said, straight after birth, I left. I had no choice because my parents were working abroad. But what it gave me was just, I am so happy and fortunate to have experienced all these different cultures and to have a more like worldly sense of everything. And that was a huge difference when I moved back to the Netherlands. And I think I was 10 or 11, and I went to a Dutch school for the first time in my life because I always went to international schools. And
Was it really different?
Completely different.
I imagine so.
My friends back in the international school were all different ethnicities, so that was normal to me. My good friends were either Korean, Japanese, American, Australian, Norwegian, whatever, you name it, we had it all, right? And then I came here and I was the only black girl in the classroom, which was fine, but I definitely felt like, I remember so vividly, my mom is quite the fashionista, like, you know, you gotta look good. And my mom used to buy clothes for every time we would go to Europe, you know, for holidays, all the other moms would be like, could you buy clothes and for our kids, because you always make Cynthia look so cute. Aww. So that was cool. She did that. But when I came here, she still had that same thing. Like, you know, you need to dress well, whatever. You know what my mom made me wear the first day of school here in the Netherlands?
Here we go.
A yellow leather skirt. And like this white little tank top, whatever. My hair was all done. Who goes to school in a yellow leather skirt when you're like 11?
But I can see you in that outfit now.
Yeah, I looked bomb AF. All those kids could watch and learn.
Yes, but
as
that's
I dragged their
amazing.
style through the
But
room.
do you remember, did you feel uncomfortable?
I didn't feel uncomfortable in what I was wearing, but I knew that I was just a different type of girl.
Different type of girl.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
I
know?
know that feeling.
And
yeah.
this was also the first time I spoke Dutch ever in my life in school, because I spoke Dutch with my family, but I never really knew how to, I guess I knew how to read and write Dutch, but I never really practiced it. Till this day, I don't like to read in Dutch. I prefer to read in English and I think in English. But I think it was like the first maybe week or two, I refused to speak in the classroom because everyone was like, that's that weird English girl. Even though she's Dutch, waarom kan ze niet gewoon lekker Nederlands praten? I could not cope with that change in the beginning, but after that I flourished, I thrived.
Right.
It was
Of course
all
you
good.
did.
But niet
But-
normaal, maar je doet normaal.
Niet normaal, maar doe maar normaal. But it was different. So, but anyway, we're
Yeah,
going off.
so when you, as a grown-up.
As a grown-up, the cons were, okay, the cons in general when you're living abroad is that you're away from your friends and family, right? But
It's always a thing.
that's always a
even though
thing.
you're happy in the place you're at that moment, you
Absolutely.
will always miss a piece from home, and that's
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
and friends.
But-
Living abroad has taught me so much. It was really the start of the journey of growing up, and I'm forever grateful that I had to experience that in my mom's home country. It was a wild ride. I realized that home is really where the heart is, and some days will be tough because you will miss your friends and your family. But looking back, I wouldn't do it differently because it has taught me so much, and it made me into the woman I am today. It sounds so cheesy, but it is the truth. At the same time, it learned me so much about really growing up and do adult stuff, because when you move and when you're away for, even if it's for 6 months, it sometimes feels like you're on a holiday, but it's not. You need to fix your healthcare and your insurance, and you need to find a doctor and a dentist and all those things. But if you prepare yourself for that, it's an experience that I would love everyone to have.
But
Yeah.
another thing that a lot of people take for granted are things that are normal to us, like a good health insurance and stuff like that. Because especially if you spend a longer time abroad and something happens to you, you need to have all your ducks in a row. And it's just harder to have a good healthcare experience or other things that you take for granted back home when you are abroad. But I was fortunate. I never really felt lonely, luckily, so that was good. But there are just some things that here you're like, oh, it's just the same old. But when you're abroad, it can be difficult to get things arranged. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Because it's a different system.
Yeah, so that's why it's really important to be prepared
Yeah.
before you move. Really be prepared.
Okay, tip
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
Be prepared. But prepared in terms of getting your health insurance in check and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, also some people are just like, oh, I'm just going to move abroad because
Yeah,
it
don't
feels
do
good.
that.
And
Don't do that.
And look
But
for a
how
job.
do you move abroad? I'm like, in my experience, I made some mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of not being prepared in terms of I had a house and I know where to live and we had some money to cover the first months. So we were good, we were prepared in that sense. But when I came back, I needed to fix my health insurance here because I never gave it up, my Dutch health insurance. Because I was always, well, long story. Anyway, and I that was a mess.
We love a good long story.
But it was a mess. I didn't arrange that well.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I think that a lot of people approach moving abroad as how they would book a vacation.
That's
Where
exactly.
it's like, I'm gonna, I choose a place, I book a ticket, I make sure I have a roof over my head,
And
then YOLO.
No,
And
that's not
just
it.
not the
I don't
way
recommend
it works.
that at all.
Especially in countries where you need to get your visa sorted. You need
That's a thing
That's
too.
a whole other
you need
thing.
To think about it.
When
Because
I
between
moved-
Suriname and Netherlands, you're still a Dutch citizen,
exactly.
right? Or it's very easy to change the passports over, or
Well, I was
like-
still a Dutch citizen, but
okay.
I needed to get a visa.
Yeah.
And then you have a tourism visa and you have a visa if you work there.
Yeah.
okay.
So there are different ways of getting a visa, but also it depends on if you're from Suriname descent.
Right. Okay.
So because my mom was born there, I had certain privileges and I could get my visa easier than if someone who isn't from
Like me,
Suriname
just
descent.
went over.
Yeah, if you would
Okay,
go to Suriname,
gotcha.
it would be harder to get your visa for a longer time.
Right.
And then you need to go. A lot of people they go to the neighbor country for just a day, so they
Yeah.
could have the stamp that they
Visa
went
rat.
out of the country,
Yeah.
and then come back and applied for the visa again. That's the trick, but it's a hassle. So
But
you
that's
need to
not a way to
know.
live.
Yeah.
No, so you need to know what you can expect in terms of residence.
Yeah, and that's tricky. I mean, I was just like, get me out of Florida. I remember it was like October or September maybe, and I moved here in November, like the beginning of November. I was just like, get me out. How do I get a visa? Like, what do I do? Do I want to study there? Was my main plan, but I just remember being like, I gotta get out of Florida.
So you came here without a plan.
I came here with a semi-plan. I was an au pair, which is hilarious because I'm like not kids like me, but I'm like, yo, I'm good.
Yeah, you're not the whole auntie.
I'm the whole auntie.
Yeah, you're
for
not-
up
but
to
you're not-
45 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Up to 45 minutes a day. But I was like, I can do this. Like, I can take care of some kids. I'm responsible. I'll go for a year. And I did not expect at the time that it was going to become 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 11 years. Like, I mean, of course, there were many, many chapters in between. But at first, I did want to have a visa. I wanted to have stuff sorted. And that was a whole bunch of drama in my au pair time. I actually really disliked that experience. Yeah, that's a whole other story. But not having a visa, it limits you so much. So that's my main advice to anybody. If I would go back and do it over again, I think I would just have, given myself a little bit more patience and grace, applied for graduate school and done it that way, then come over here, versus doing like the sort of gap year and a half, whatever, doing an au pair job which had nothing to do with my career path.
Yeah, but you had something to do.
And I had studied.
It's a good startup.
Yeah, and I had studied like cultural anthropology in my bachelor, so it made sense. I was like,
fancy.
Cultural anthropology.
Oh, that's
and
a
women's
thing,
studies
study.
from Rollins College.
Shout out Rollins.
But yeah, I just wanted to get out of Florida.
But would
that
you
was-
ever move back to the States, or would
You asking me
move-
that in 2020? That's a solid
Well,
no.
well, not in 2020
Or to another
2021,
country,
or to
maybe?
another country.
I'm down for that. I would love to live in Portugal, and I'm trying to figure out now that I'm here long term and I have like long term residency and that kind of stuff. I never changed my passport over because this whole pandemic situation has been like, honestly, the biggest fear of mine for the last decade, like to be separated from my family and not be able to get home. My mom was always like, that's never going to happen. And I'm like, girl, it happened. So I don't know, but I can't live in a cold place forever. The mermaid in me, she needs the sea, she needs the sun. I
needs
built
to
my
spread
career
her
here.
fins.
Yeah, I need to spread my fins, And also
does.
keep the hair wavy and voluminous.
Sun-kissed.
Yes, sun-kissed and
I
golden.
get that.
But I built my career here. I really, again, I grew up here. So Amsterdam is always going to be a core place for me.
It's
And
like a home base.
it is a home base. And eventually, we talked about maybe doing some abroad work trips and
Yeah.
stuff together. I would love to do that. I want to do it when it's safe and fun and I can do the full experience. I don't want to, I thought about doing some little trips this year, but it's like, do I want to go through the effort and time and money and honestly
The risk.
potential risk to go like sit in a cafe with a mask on, quickly eat a pizza
No,
and then
that's
quickly
not
put my
it.
mask back on? Like I it sucks, but I just want to be patient.
But still,
But I want to go.
I would give my left arm to go somewhere.
No,
real
that's a
quick.
good arm, girl. Don't give it up. You only got two.
Listen,
You just want to go so
I'm
bad.
just craving, but I'm
Yeah.
mostly craving to see particular people, like certain
Yeah.
friends and family.
But
I would
that's
do anything
it.
to hug my mom.
Last few months, I'm getting a bit homesick. I really want to go back to Suriname. Maybe for a few weeks, but I just want to be there for a little bit and feel
Yeah.
the sun and the warmth and see my family. But looking back and when I lived there, it was such a special time because I was so young and I grew up there. Like getting away from everything that you know and your family and your whole base and just starting all over, it made me who I am now and
Yeah.
it gave me so much experience and a push in the right direction to just like follow your feeling every time. I
Yeah.
love it. But I moved back to the Netherlands because I was like, you know what, there's more under the sun. I want to develop myself.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like I want to travel and I want to do things and I
Yeah.
don't want to live here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is where I could raise my children in a way that they have all these opportunities and
For sure.
we can do so many stuff, but I don't see myself like dying in Amsterdam.
Same.
But
no,
the thing
Lord,
is
please
also
no.
that certain places are there for a certain reason in your life, just
Yeah.
like people
Yeah,
are.
chapters.
And sometimes you need to like navigate your life's journey throughout different countries or cities or whatever it may be. Like you need to keep moving. As a human being, we grow.
Yeah.
And as people that love to travel, I feel like moving to other places and getting taste of other cultures or, ways that we were raised or ways we can raise our children. It's all a bit of like a map. We got to map our lives out. And
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
a
but
journey.
it also feels like when you travel, you're alone. Even if you travel with someone, you're by yourself because you leave everything behind, your family and your friends.
Yeah.
So you need to figure it out right then and there. And that's the beauty of it because you get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
in
that's the
situations you would never have. So that's the thing that I love and why I love the experience for me moving back to Suriname
Yeah.
back in the days.